Good evening, Texas bikers and bikers all across the nation. This is Texas Biker Radio, number 351 for sure. My name is Mel Popeye Moss, my co-host, Mel OG Robbins. We are with you each and every week. We're the sponsors of this show, along with a little help from our friends. And good evening, Mel. How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing great.
When I was doing a promo for this show this morning, I thought it was kind of interesting. A guy posted on the chat box of the live promo I was doing, and he seemed to think that we're imagining all this profiling stuff. He said,
we're doing what?
We're imagining it.
Yeah.
He said, maybe you're not really being profiled, you just think you are.
Yeah.
Now, and then he started talking about proof and everything else. And Mel, this was while I was filling out Freedom of Information requests, and I'm looking at the documents where the bikers had been pulled over, asked some stupid questions, and then were promptly taken to jail for failing to give a turn signal, or in one case, failing to stop at the designated spot. In other words, across the white line. And so, they were taken to jail for those serious crimes, while anybody in the general public would be just issued a ticket. Tell me where I'm wrong. I mean,
yeah,
we've only been doing this for a good while now.
I would have to class that as just denial.
Yeah.
Or you had one of the Thumb brothers on there talking to you.
That's true. That's true. I think his handle was Farmer in the Dale or something like that. I don't know, but
could very well have been one of the famous Thumb brothers.
Yeah, but I thought that was an interesting thought, that we're just imagining all this, and we're not really.
Yeah, like we're wearing foil hats.
Yeah. But go figure, it takes all kinds, and he has an opinion, and so do we. And I told him, well, yeah, I think there's a lot of bikers out there that's been profiled, and we've had law enforcement admit that's what they were doing. So,
well, as they like to say in the South, bless his heart.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I did fill out those Freedom of Information requests. They go out in the morning to Parker County. And that's an interesting thing, because I tried to call a public information officer again this morning. That would be Deputy Danny. And, I heard her. I got her voicemail, which is frightening within itself. But I have a feeling we are maybe getting a bit of the runaround. I think tomorrow we'll tell the tale. But we're not going to waste our time running out there. She's going to disappear every time we make that trip. So I'll wait till she decides to call us.
Well, I think the initial shock value was worth its weight in gold.
Well, you know what? That's true. That's true. And, from the forms and everything I see here, Mel, from the Parker County Sheriff's Office here about requesting information, he's controlling it all. Now, every county's different. I've already said that to everybody. Every county is different. Every city is different on how you go about asking for this material. Body cams, such, police reports, stuff like that. And but I see that the sheriff is in control of it all. And really, that should probably raise about, I don't know, half a dozen red flags to me. So we'll see. We'll see what the battle's going to be. We may have to get lawyers involved before it's all over with. But we'll push the envelope on that one. So, let's see. Fort Worth, that's next on our list. We're still getting data on that one. So I'm sure Officer Buddy thinks that our hopes we've disappeared. But that's not going to be the case. So, any thoughts on all that?
Well, they're going to, when they're up to no good, they're going to continue to drag their feet and make it seem like, they're wanting to cooperate with us. And it's just all part of their strategy, man.
Oh yeah.
They want to give you that warm, touchy-feely situation, so that if they're questioned by anyone, they can say, "Oh no, we fully cooperated here. We were more than helpful and gracious when they came in, and yada yada yada."
Well, we're going to get the information and give him every chance there is to try and explain what's going on. Now, of course, like we've said, we're not anybody's dummy. We understand CCP 61.02. We understand the motorcycle gang assessment. We understand that backwards and forwards, everybody. And you've heard me say that that gang assessment report is just that. It's a report. It is an opinion by those folks that put it together. And by the way, if you look at the list of everybody that contributed to that thing, Mel, it's unbelievable. Everybody.
Well,
go ahead.
Let me draw you an interesting parallel that I heard today that really ties into what you were just saying about the gang data report.
Yeah.
Being just that, a report.
Yes.
I was watching Jim Acosta on TV this afternoon while I was on the treadmill for an hour. And I was watching his press interview, because he's defending what he did back in 2000, I think it was 2008 with Epstein.
Yeah.
Which, once he explains it, I mean, it's pretty damn straightforward. And let me go off on a tangent here for just a second, because it'll help with another point that I'm going to make. Everyone is thinking, because of the way the media has been reporting this, that Acosta, as a U.S. attorney, stepped in and did special favors for Epstein. And when he got up there and he started explaining what in the hell was going on, this whole thing, when it started with Epstein back in 2008, was via the state of Florida and a local prosecutor. And the local prosecutor, they had garnered a grand jury to convict this guy.
Yeah.
Or to issue a true bill. And then they were going to go after him. Their problem being the evidence was a little sketchy. You had these young girls that really didn't want to testify in open court. So it was kind of a sketchy deal, and the local DA was about to plea bargain this thing. They were letting the Epstein's attorneys set the conditions on this thing to where he was going to get off with just a slap on the hand. Mm. And the feds were watching this, and they stepped in and they said, wait a minute. Unless you confess to there was a certain charge they came up with where he'd have to register as a sex offender and do some minimal jail time here. I guarantee you, if this goes forward with the state of Florida, we will come in with federal charges.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how he got involved.
Yeah.
And he got Epstein. Epstein actually had to sign a deal and register as a sex offender, the whole bit. So as Acosta was explaining this, you've got this pool of reporters sitting there, and I swear to God, I'm telling you, Mel, if I'd have had a Thompson submachine gun, I'd have started spraying the crowd, because these people are just incredibly freaking stupid.
Yeah.
The questions they ask as journalists and as a news media just blow you away, and you're beginning to think you're in the back hills of West Virginia, where there's been inbreeding going on for centuries. So, you know, and this one stupid reporter got up and asked a question where Acosta had supposedly met with one of Epstein's defense attorneys to cut a deal. And Epstein looked at her and he said, I'll tell you what the problem is here. Just because, most of you think that just because it was reported in the news that it actually happened.
Yes.
And that's the point that's the parallel that I'm drawing to what you said about the criminal gang database report.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's presumed that because the FBI, and probably some other federal agencies, the ATF, because they like to get involved in biker business.
Oh, yes.
Get together and do this report. Because they do this report, all of a sudden it's a stone cold hard fact, which is literal bullshit.
That's right.
And that's the point that Epstein was trying to make, or that Acosta was making with this reporter. Just because you said it happened doesn't mean it happened. He said, as a matter of fact, if you take the time to read the agreement that Epstein signed, it was dated way before that breakfast meeting that I had with one of his defense attorneys, and the only reason I met with him for breakfast is it was 7 a.m. and I was not going to open the office, and in no way was the deal discussed. I, in fact, referred this attorney to somebody within the state of Florida because that's who would have to take care of it, and he said that was the deal. But there you have it. Because you've got an agency like the media that reported that something supposedly happened, all of a sudden it's supposed to be a fact.
Yeah.
And that's the same damn thing with the criminal gang report that's put out by the Fed.
Put out by the Fed and by the state, the Texas DPS.
They just cut and paste.
That's right. It's virtually carbon copies of each other. Cut and paste. I don't know who plagiarized who.
It's just like when Obama was president and the Department of Homeland Security came out with that report saying that all returning veterans were potential homegrown terrorists.
Yeah.
Same bullshit.
Mel, there's 28 million of us veterans, 26 to 28 millions. And
isn't it nice to know you're a homegrown terrorist?
That's right. That's right. Or a 65-year-old Tea Party member. So,
Yep.
Just because somebody says it, and especially one that has been shown the ability to lie at will. about motorcyclists, and not only motorcyclists, different groups around the country. But it's hands off other groups, hands off the real threat. But not for motorcyclists. When it comes to motorcyclists, by God, he goes across that white line, haul his ass to jail.
Yeah, it's far from our imagination.
I mean, it really. And so, as we march on, going through all this stuff, and of course now we've got the police chief out in Ferris, who's decided that he don't want any OMGs, support clubs, or anybody else for that matter going into that town, or in particular the Ferris Bar and Grill. Now, monkey see, monkey do. Because they had the same thing happen in Lake Dallas, where they threatened a restaurant owner with calling the TABC. And of course, the TABC is more than willing to have a ill-informed police chief threaten them. Because
they're actually operating like a terrorist group.
That's right. And the TABC has gotten in trouble over this before. These restaurant owners, bar owners, can seek damages if they've lost business because of it. Just saying. And we're surely going to go out there and let them know that. And we'll be talking to
it's time to educate some of these bar owners.
Yeah, and we'll be talking to the county press too. That you turn your newspaper over to a ill-informed police chief in the tiny town of Ferris. Well, I imagine, Mel, that's probably another one. We have so many places in this state where they are carbon copies of each other. They're carbon copies of McLennan County and the crap they've been getting away with for decades. In particular, police departments and sheriff departments. And Mel, we've already pointed out to everybody, wherever there is a for-profit jail, there is corruption going on through civil asset or through criminal asset forfeitures. And that is a recipe for corruption also.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we had it on pretty good authority that sometimes there's checks being cut to private accounts by these outfits that run these jails.
Yeah.
These corporations are actually paying local officials off. They get a nice little check.
Even in Parker County, Mel, the number one wrecker service there that the sheriff department uses, they have a contract with, is a former sheriff's deputies. Go figure. Just saying. Wonder what kind of kickback got that one.
Like they say, when you want to know something, just follow the money.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. So, man, it's so exciting. I don't know which one to do next. I really want to get up to Lake Dallas and talk to the lady with that restaurant. And I really want to hold a rally there at some point before the end of the year. We're busy. We're running back and forth. Mel, and we have of course, we have our rally, our Bikers' Rights Rally on the 27th of July, and we've moved that start time to 1 p.m. And it's going to be hot. I told everybody that in the promo today. It's going to be hot, so make sure you're hydrated. We will have water there for you.
And if it's super hot, we'll plan an extra stop on the way down.
That's right.
For those that want to follow us out of DFW.
And Mel, where's that starting from?
That is going to start from Redneck Heaven. We're going to be kickstands up at 9 a.m. Now that's Redneck Heaven in Arlington.
Yeah.
Just off 360 there by Six Flags. We'll be kickstands up at 9 o'clock. Our first stop will be no more than 100 miles out or less. And if necessary, we'll plan another stop before we get to the courthouse, if it's that hot, because we don't want anyone getting into trouble.
Yes, and Mel, let me say, if anyone is having problems health-wise with the heat, cage it. Be smart, cage it.
You bet.
Yeah.
Now, our Houston chapter, for anybody that wants to follow them out of Houston, if you go to the event, which is posted on Sons of Liberty Riders MC, look under events on Facebook, you'll see the event, and in the description of what the rally's all about, we talk about those leaving the DFW area. We're meeting at Redneck. And for those wishing to group up, they're going to be kickstands up. Their kickstands up is at 9:15, so that's pretty close.
Yeah.
So go there if you want to ride out in a group. If you don't, meet us there, and the rally starts at 1 o'clock.
Right. Right. And this Paul Landers, Mel. Paul Landers is going to be speaking at the rally, along with.
Well, good. He's usually a pretty good speaker.
That's right.
So I'm sure he'll have some good stuff to say, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and don't forget to be a good protester. Bring you a little sign, and let the news media and the folks that are there know what it's all about. And of course, we'll be giving you some ideas before we head down there about signage and stuff like that. These things are always fun, and they are informative for the people of that county. It's basically some of the same things we did in McLennan County. And you know what kind of, how that ended. And so it didn't end well for McLennan County. So I think they're still suffering from the effects of all that, even though they wouldn't admit it, but they are. And believe you me, that everything that's going on now is because it's the ramifications of what went down in Waco and Twin Peaks. We're still fighting the battle of lies and innuendos put out by law enforcement. They use that as an example in the state legislature and the public to vilify us all. So everybody, those of you that can make it, July 27th, Milam County Courthouse, Camron, Texas. And you know, man, I kind of like that little town. Kind of sleepy.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll bring some excitement to town.
That's right. I'm sure we're going to do that. And if you're all about excitement, bringing excitement to a sleepy little town, that is the place to do it. It should bring out all the curiosity seekers. So anyway, Mel, was that the last of the Harley news? That last thing you brought up was kind of shocking.
Well, yeah, no, I got a little more to talk about today.
Okay, why don't we do that right now?
Okay. Let's kind of go back to the good old hydraulic clutch situation, because it also does tie in with another issue with the brakes. However, before we get to that, you know, there were about 5 recalls issued on these hydraulic clutches. And it started back in 2014, 2015 is when they first started coming out with those recalls. And they came up with improvements in the master cylinder. They've had all kinds of issues where this hydraulic clutch fluid has been leaking out into the primary, and in leaking, sucks in moisture, which the hydraulic fluid used in the hydraulic clutch is DOT4, and that's infamous for sucking up water. So, you know, double check. You can go to the Harley-Davidson website. You can go to the service area, and you can enter your VIN number and make sure that there isn't a recall on your bike. If that, you know, if you have difficulty with that, you can always call your local Harley-Davidson dealer, and they will run the VIN number for you. They trust me. They love to do warranty work, so if they can find a recall on your bike, they will do it. Hang on just a minute.
Mel's got them wild dogs.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
They love to do warranty work, so if they can find any recalls on your bike, they're going to do it. The other issue relative to that hydraulic fluid is a brake caliper issue, which also goes back a few years. Now, interestingly enough, let me jump back to a data point that you might find interesting. Because they had so many of these master cylinders to rebuild, they got one of their infamous Harley-Davidson plants involved. And would you believe this plant is on the Amazon River, 900 miles inland. The only way you can get to that sucker is by boat or airplane. But apparently Harley-Davidson has been operating this factory down there for quite a while. It supplies all of the motorcycles to the southern hemisphere.
Really?
Thing that they've been pumping out a lot of these new master cylinders for these recalls. Just a little side note there. But back to the brakes. The problem they've run into is they've got a caliper develop corrosion, and it is really bad. And again, this runs from about 2014, 2015 on up.
Oh, here we go.
And if you live on the coast, around salt water, it can be even quicker. It can develop quicker on you. What you have to look for is put your bike in neutral. If you get a recall notice, now they sent out recall notices. There was a guy that just bought a brand new, or a fairly new 2017, and he in the mail shortly after he bought it, he gets a notice from the factory that there's a recall on the brakes. However, the calipers supposedly weren't ready until April this year. They weren't available. So Harley gave some advice on what to check for if you wanted to continue to run the motorcycle. Because the danger here is the brake can lock up on you. But they said, put it in neutral and roll it backwards and forwards, and if you feel any resistance at all after you apply the brakes and release them, then don't ride the bike until they can get that caliper replaced. But all of that notwithstanding, for those of us that have a hydraulic clutch, and for the balance of us, all of us have brakes, that's for sure, whether they be ABS or not. They're all running DOT4. And another thing that could corrode the hell out of the piston in the master cylinder and on the calipers is if moisture gets into that DOT4. And Harley is saying you should not run that fluid more than 2 years before you have it flushed and refilled. Now you can do it yourself if you got the proper tools. I just recently checked out my local dealer. There's a lot of stuff I wrench on my bike and some stuff I'm just not too crazy about doing. And when you start messing around with DOT4 on a motorcycle, splashing on the paint and getting on other crap and trying to bleed brakes and the whole bit, I kind of step away. But I think shop time with a lot of these Harley dealers is now around 110 an hour.
Yeah.
He told me since I didn't have ABS brakes on my Street Glide, that it would only cost me $225 in about 2 hours, and they would be doing both the clutch and the brakes, and I'm going to go ahead and let them do it. Now, I'm pushing 3 years. My bike's still running fine, but still, you got that gnawing at the back of your neck that, that clutch could engage. And I had that happen to me when I first bought that bike. It sat for about a month. I can't remember what the circumstances were, but I fired that sucker up, and I'm glad I had my hand on the brake when I did, because it was in neutral, and I had the clutch depressed, and that bike shot forward when I started it up, and it's had 2 replacements on the master cylinder for that clutch. So, I got that gnawing in the back of my mind about if that starts screwing up and that cylinder gets corroded, that's going to happen to me again, and I damn sure don't care for locked up brakes. So my advice to everyone out there is if you got more than 2 years on your DOT4 fluid, I'd get it changed one way or the other.
Yeah. Mel.
So there you have it.
I can tell you from experience, there's nothing like running into the back of the garage.
Yeah. It's a thrill a minute.
Yeah. I mean, over the years, especially when I was younger, I mean, I had some pieces of crap, and yeah. So it took an extra while to get the items up here from the Amazon with Piranha chasing them. So,
yeah, but I thought that was something about that factory they have on the Amazon 900 miles inland.
What are they paying the natives? I mean,
Well, I got to be pretty sure it's dirt cheap.
Yeah.
They probably drop a bunch of bananas on the loading platform for lunch. I don't know.
Damn. Yeah.
And then, you know that the Amazon is so big, even where that plant is, that ocean liners can get to it, freight liners can.
Really?
Up the Amazon? Yeah, and that's 900 miles inland.
God.
The guy that wrote the article said he's been there before.
Yeah.
And I don't think too many people know about that factory.
I had no clue of it. I thought all this stuff was up in Wisconsin. Just kidding.
Yeah, I thought it was made in Milwaukee.
Yeah. But, I mean, they claim Southern Hemisphere, although they need the parts up here.
Right.
Just saying. So...
Apparently, they get a pretty decent tax break in the Amazon.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. Mel, we got anything else this trip?
No, that's about it.
All right. It being as I'll be in this building, I apologize to everybody if you hear the fans or the air conditioner in the background. I'm not going to turn it down because we've been fighting heat in here all day. And so I'll wrap this thing up, Mel, and start doing what editing I'm going to do. I'm going to do it in a hurry. And so, because we're behind schedule here today.
Well, you know what the greatest single fear in Texas is, don't you?
What's that?
Loss of air conditioning.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. And, but... there was a period of time where I was young enough I didn't give a damn about air conditioning. But nowadays, it's pretty nice to have. And so with that, Mel, we're going to tell everybody to ride safe and have a good evening.
Betcha. See you the next time around.
All right. Good night, Mel. Bye-bye.
Good night.